NBC Magazine with David Brinkley and NBC News correspondents Betsy Allen, Douglas Kiker, Jack Perkins, and Garrick Utley.
Can you believe one marijuana plant, one plant is worth $1,000? In California, biggest farm state in the union, marijuana is the biggest cash crop. The biggest.
This is some of the best in the world. It'll compete with any of the finest pot grown anywhere on the face of the earth. I'm sure of that.
California may be famous around the world to the greater degree for such things as movies and freeways and so on. But in fact, it is our biggest farm state. They grow everything: vegetables, fruits, flowers, dates, nuts, olives, walnuts, grapes, citrus, everything you can think of. So it may be a little unsettling to contemplate a fact that is new to me and maybe to you. The biggest farm crop in California, they say, is not any of these. It's marijuana. Garrick Utley, you want to tell us about this?
I'll tell you all about it, Dave. In fact, this week is the big harvest week for marijuana in California. Whatever you may think of marijuana, if you excuse the expression, it is a growth industry, particularly in the western states. The fact that it's illegal does not deter the growers because the financial rewards are so large. One plant can be worth $1,000 or more. And there are tens of thousands of growers. In the last few years, they've developed a new kind of plant. It's called Sensimilla. That means, in Spanish, without seeds. It's a female marijuana plant that is particularly potent. It's a higher high, if you will. As marijuana production grows, so too do the police efforts to stop it. And the center of the action are the hills in Northern California. Chris Thiel, Humboldt County Sheriff's Department, searching for marijuana gardens. It's early October. The harvest has just begun. Thiel's photographs and tips from informers support search warrants. 2 days later, the net tightens. At a pre-dawn briefing, a raid is planned.
Down there. We're going to go up the hill, turn around, and come straight in.
The men on the team are experienced at raiding marijuana gardens.
We'll go downstairs, load up, and get the hell out of here.
7 a.m., the police caravan rolls up a lonely mountain road. Because of their elaborate communication systems, growers often escape before the law arrives. But this time, 2 people are caught. They deny they are growers, but they were sleeping in a tent near a marijuana plot, a common security measure at harvest time. Detective Thiel has been raiding marijuana growers for 7 years, and it's had an effect. The size of the gardens has changed.
We used to see big gardens, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 plants, as high as 3,500 plants per garden. But through the constant use of aerial patrol and the raids, we've cut down the large gardens, and now they're into smaller gardens. So the growers are having to work at it.
One thing seems certain. No matter how many raids are carried out, no matter how much marijuana is detected and destroyed, it'll be only a fraction of the entire crop. Most plants, like these here, will be harvested and will reach the marketplace. Marijuana money can help local economies. The recession hit hard in Northern California, and in many counties, such as Mendocino, marijuana is an important source of income. County Agriculture Commissioner Ted Erickson was criticized by his superiors when he included marijuana in his official annual report. His estimate of the crop's worth goes up each year.
I would say in 1980 it is probably going to be in the vicinity in excess of $120 million.
And that's in this one county?
In one county.
If you were to estimate the size of the marijuana crop in California, the state as a whole, how big is it?
Oh, I would think over $1 billion. $1 billion.
We began the story of this year's Sensimilla crop in late May in a garage in Shasta County. Various strains of marijuana have been growing indoors since February. Cuttings provide new plants and extra income. Growing indoors, the chance of detection is slight, but sunlight means larger plants and greater profits. So in June, our first grower moved his plants outdoors into areas of natural camouflage, trying to blend them into the background. In this case, a blackberry patch. Greenhouses are the wave of the future. Here, marijuana can be grown year-round. This one is the work of a medical student. He uses carbon dioxide to promote rapid growth. It can be more expensive, but a clear trend in marijuana cultivation is to move indoors. Outdoor plots are vulnerable, as the couple apprehended in the raid found out when they were formally arrested.
I'm going to arrest both of you for cultivation at this time in possession of marijuana. And it's bad news.
Anyway, how many people you got?
You know, and we really are trying to be straight to you. We didn't want to get in any trouble or, you know, we don't know anything.
When you saw it here, that's your time, and she should have backed away from it.
Few people arrested in raids ever land long in jail. There are too many of them, and it's too expensive to fully prosecute all the cases.
Who are the growers around here? Are they hippies from the 1960s, or is a new breed coming in?
Okay, again, if we compare back 7 years ago, we saw a lot of the Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco beatniks coming up here, and the flower children, they want to get in the hills, kick back, do their thing. It's changed again with the Sensimilla. Along comes the money, along comes greed. We've arrested this year people in their 50s, people in their 60s, people that have businesses, people that have ranches, straight people. What the hippie would call the redneck is out there going after the buck.
If you are going after the buck, you had better get up early, for growing marijuana is hard work. Smart growers start before sunrise to avoid air surveillance and suspicious neighbors. This garden is hidden in the middle of a poison oak patch. For even more seclusion, growers seek a single road leading far back into the wilderness, a discouraging distance for police and particularly thieves who can steal an entire crop in just a few minutes. As you go farther into the hills, you find others are there. Signs and locks make it clear strangers are not welcome. In these hills, one young entrepreneur has set up several gardens. He took us to one of his smaller plots and described the problems the beginning grower faces.
You've got your land costs, of course, which are going to be your most phenomenal. Getting set up and getting a livable working situation going for yourself in the woods, your actual cost of what goes in the ground is real minimal. It's mainly labor intensive. It's your time. There's the inherent problems that are in any other business. A lot of people aren't aware of that. It's this big, easy money thing on the horizon. It's not necessarily so. The risk, unlike a lot of the other illicit trades, the exposure time here is phenomenal. These things sit out here for 7 months. In pure view, the chance of just even a casual overflight where someone notices is still a chance.
How good is this marijuana you're growing here compared to what comes from other places?
This is some of the best in the world. It'll compete with any of the finest pot grown anywhere on the face of the earth, I'm sure of that.
You take a sense of pride in that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, as any farmer would with this product.
By August, the tops of the unpollinated female plant are beginning to swell, building up resins, growing more potent. Growers are expecting a profitable harvest, but for most of them, it's still 2 months away. But the medical student in the greenhouse is already harvesting when supply is short and prices exceptionally high.
If it's sold right at harvest time in California, the price can drop down to $100 for an ounce of Sensimilla. Now, if it was sold during the lean season, it could go as high as $250 an ounce, maybe higher. Demand is so high right now that you can get really good prices because it's the most popular marijuana in the country right now.
Too popular, perhaps. Growers worry about a police raid, but their greatest fear is thievery, what they call a ripoff.
They really don't fear us. They know that we're going to come in, due process of law. We're not going to shoot somebody. We're not going to beat them up. They're more worried about the ripoff than they are anything else.
I carry a gun when I go up there because there's been a lot of rip-offs around. I was ripped off last year up there, and they tend to carry guns. And it forces somebody to have to be here all the time, day and night, the whole summer, especially closer to harvest time when the buds are really expensive and worth ripping off. We have to have security set up all over the garden and somebody just constantly watching it.
It is now October. Time to harvest, manicure, package, and sell. And time for paranoia.
Fear causes many growers to harvest too quickly for maximum profit. But our first grower waited too long to harvest. To fight insects, he had overwatered his plants. They were poisoned when his well ran low and iron deposits came up. The best parts of his plants, the tops, were stolen when he moved them to a new location with better water. He lost between $30,000 and $40,000. Now, he's starting all over again with cuttings from the remnants of the crop. Next year, he hopes to be back in business in another state. For each failure, there are many more successes. The woman with the gun is one of them.
You've worked your tail off all year and gone through a lot of tension and paranoia and risk, and then all of a sudden it finally ends, and you figure you're okay for a while until next year, and then it'll start again. I would like to see it stay illegal. There's a lot of money in growing it, so I figure as long as it is illegal and people are taking such risks, the price is going to stay high.
Police raids can also make marijuana more expensive by frightening timid growers out of production. The smaller the supply, the higher the price. The sheriff's deputies worked 13 hours, destroyed 9 gardens, and carted away 2 truckloads of marijuana to be burned. It was worth perhaps $250,000. But most growers are never busted. The young entrepreneur in the wilderness is confident of a bumper crop. There has never been a police raid in this area. The government spends a lot of money and a lot of time trying to eradicate these plants to put you out of business. Is it worth the effort and the money?
Oh, absolutely not. And in fact, I venture to say if the average citizen, tax-paying citizen, a little emphasis on that, realized what a phenomenal waste he was, they wouldn't pay taxes.
There's got to be a deterrent. And I don't feel that there was a deterrent in the past. We would go out here, we expend a lot of money eradicating these things, investigating the cases. They're very complex. And to get probation. And the growers would tell us, this is, so what? It's worth the risk. We'll plant 3 gardens, maybe you'll get 1, and what's going to happen? Nothing. Nothing's going to happen to us. This year's been a little bit different. They're starting to send them to prison over it. This year for us up here, the people that were convicted, and our conviction rate is getting higher, they're getting fined $2,500, $5,000, 3 years probation. We can't stop them all, but at least we like to keep them, let them know we're working it the best we can do for the funds we have.
They'll need even heavier funding. Fresh seed strains and new techniques are on the way. Growers like this one in San Francisco are already preparing for next year. They've gathered marijuana from all over the world and have genetically engineered new plants. They will be low, squat, less visible from the air, with a greater yield and potency. And with the use of cuttings, they will reproduce this plant thousands of times.
Yes, even tens of thousands of times. And you understand why, David, when you understand that each plant is worth $1,000 or $1,500. That's the financial stimulation, and that's why growers are spreading out of Northern California into other western states. It is a growth industry.
I gather from one of these growers that about all the police succeed in doing is running up the price.
Well, that's one of the results of it. It's very much like Prohibition in those days, trying to stop alcohol. There are reasons for it. Marijuana is harmful medically. The law says you shouldn't grow it, but people are going to go ahead and grow it. The fact is also, we heard this summer that for the first time that people started dealing in marijuana futures, buying in early summer for delivery in the fall.
Is this going to be as big a failure as Prohibition was, do you suppose?
Probably will be. The police admit they can't stop it.